Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh, and this is your stimulus check update for the next stimulus package for Friday, November 6th. I hope everyone is off to a good and safe start to their Friday so far, and that you all have a wonderful weekend ahead. In this video, I'll be discussing updates in regards to the next relief package and the second stimulus check. I'll also be discussing unemployment, why Nancy Pelosi and Democrats may have lost all leverage in relief negotiations, and then I'll be wrapping up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. But first, if you wouldn't mind real quickly liking this video, give me a big thumbs up. It really just helps with the YouTube algorithm in terms of pushing this video out to other viewers like you, and hopefully helping other people like you as well. Okay, so even though Mitch McConnell showed some optimism the other day about passing another relief package before the end of this year, White House Economic Advisor Stephen Moore was a bit more gloomy. This is what Stephen Moore had to say about another relief package being passed in the lame duck session if Trump were to lose the election. Quote, "Trump does not want the last thing he does in office, a $2 trillion spending bill. We want Biden to own that, not Trump." And I have to say, Moore is probably right there. However, just because the Trump administration may no longer have the motivation to pass a $2 trillion bill if he loses the election, doesn't necessarily mean he'd veto a bill that McConnell and Pelosi agreed to. However, the catch here is that McConnell wasn't the one offering Nancy Pelosi $1.9 trillion in stimulus relief. McConnell wasn't the one offering Pelosi $300 billion plus in aid for state and local government. McConnell wasn't the one giving in to nearly all of Pelosi's demands. No, that was Donald Trump's negotiator, Stephen Mnuchin. And is Trump really going to continue having Stephen Mnuchin negotiate hard with Pelosi to get a deal done if he ends up losing this election? Not a chance. He's going to say, "Nancy, you can work with McConnell now," and McConnell isn't going to be pushed around nearly as much as Mnuchin did in negotiations. Pelosi just lost nearly $1 trillion in guaranteed money for not agreeing with Mnuchin's offer. And this is where the tides are beginning to turn. This is why, more than ever, Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats will have to compromise to get something done. If Joe Biden is in office, he'll be taking over an unemployment rate around 8%, and who knows how he'll react with the virus. His administration will be laying out plans early to keep things on track and pass another stimulus. 1 week ago, Pelosi and other Democrats were optimistic about taking more seats in the House, taking the majority in the Senate, and taking the White House. A clean sweep. Instead, even though they may end up taking over the White House, they lost seats in the House, and the Republicans still have the majority in the Senate. Democrats will have absolutely no leverage, and they can't afford to wait 2 years for the midterm elections to see if they can take more seats back. What this is going to do is force Nancy Pelosi in an agreement with Mitch McConnell and other Republicans for another stimulus, somewhere around the $500 billion to $1 trillion range. And $1 trillion is going to absolutely be the maximum. I really can't see it being any more than that. The tides have certainly turned. No longer is it going to be Donald Trump looking bad if more stimulus doesn't get passed. It's now fully on the shoulders of the Biden administration, and without additional stimulus, the recovery is going to be even slower. Democrats are all of a sudden going to feel the pressure to get something done fast, or they face the consequences of possibly losing even more seats in the midterm elections in 2022. But again, this is all if Joe Biden ends up winning the election after all the recounts that may or may not take place. It's still very plausible that Trump may end up being victorious at the end. Who really knows? But this is what I see taking place if Joe Biden takes office. Trump and Mnuchin will no longer negotiate with Pelosi. Pelosi will then be forced to negotiate with McConnell in the next relief package, where she'll see he's only looking at spending around $500 billion. We'll hear Pelosi complain about Republicans being cheap and not doing everything that it takes to crush the virus, but in the end, with Biden in office, she'll have a lot more pressure to give in and make a deal so Biden's economy can bounce back faster and not see any setbacks in his first couple of years. In the end, I do believe they'll end up agreeing to an $800 billion bill with some aid for state and local, funding for schools, testing and tracing, an extension of the unemployment benefits, and stimulus checks to American families. Again, this is just all my speculation, and it's also perfectly possible the two sides will be so hard-headed that they'll never end up reaching a deal. Which, of course, that's only going to slow down the recovery process, which again, whose shoulders will that fall on? The president's, whoever that may be. In the end, whoever the president is, let's hope the two sides can reach a compromise so American families can receive the relief they've been seeking very soon. In unemployment news, we are still waiting on Congress to pass another bill to extend the unemployment benefits on a longer-term basis, since every state has now officially exhausted their benefits from the Lost Wages Assistance Program. It's also been reported that U.S. private employers have added 365,000 jobs in October, missing expectations by quite a bit. It was estimated that in the month of October, there would be a job increase of 650,000 in the private sector. So obviously, even though we're seeing some improvements, things are slowing down by quite a bit. And this means one of two things, both of which can be true at the same time. One, we're beginning to see more and more jobs permanently disappear that may never come back, at least in the near future. Or two, we still have too many strict shutdowns in many states, which causes the delay in the reopening of businesses or them being able to fully function. It's also going to be very difficult to get our service-based industry job numbers back to normal when people aren't going to be traveling and staying in hotels with everything going on. With that said, let's hope that Congress can finally pass a bill to extend these benefits at least until we can get our unemployment numbers closer to pre-pandemic levels. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to move right along to answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. And if you do have any other comments or questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I do try to answer as many of the comments and questions as I possibly can, but for those comments and questions I'm not able to respond to, I do try to pick some of the more popular ones to answer in the next video in video form. Okay, so without further ado, let me go ahead and jump into the first comment of today's video, which is from Best Dad. Best Dad says, how much will adult dependents get paid? Will I get the money, or will whoever claimed me receive the money? Thank you for your question, and even though it hasn't been totally decided yet, more than likely, adult dependents will be receiving $500. Now, in recent discussions between Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin, there had been talks about increasing that number up to $1,000, but nothing is certainly set in stone yet. With Joe Biden possibly defeating Donald Trump, the decision may be coming down to Mitch McConnell now at this point as well, which means we may see a lower number. As far as who the money goes to, if you're over the age of 17, more than likely you'll be the one receiving the payment. On the other hand, if you're an adult claiming your child who is under the age of 17, then the adult claiming the child should be the one receiving the extra $500. Okay, moving right along to the next question in today's video, which is from Valerie. Valerie says, so we'll receive the stimulus before 2021? Thank you for your question, Valerie, and even though it seems like lawmakers want the next relief package to pass before 2021, it's going to be a tight squeeze to pass it before then. They'll still need to pass a new CR deal before December 11th to avoid a government shutdown, and we're still going to be faced with the huge mess with the presidential election. Who knows how long that's going to drag out to. Now, as I mentioned before, Mitch McConnell did come out and say that the Senate's #1 priority when they return to Washington next week will be to prepare a new stimulus package, so there is always hope there. However, as we also know, his idea of the next stimulus package is much different than House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's. They're going to be anywhere between $1 and $1.5 trillion apart, so it's going to take a lot of compromise on Nancy Pelosi's part to reach a deal. And now that Donald Trump may be out of office, who she hates so much, will she be more willing to work with Republicans? Time will only tell, but let's hope they can reach a deal very soon. Okay, moving right along to the next question in today's video, which is from Jimmy. Jimmy says, great job, Josh. Do you believe we might get a larger stimulus check, such as $2,000? Thank you for your question, Jimmy, and even though some lawmakers such as Kamala Harris have thrown around numbers such as $2,000 recurring stimulus payments, more than likely, in the end, we'll just end up receiving a one-time payment of $1,200. A one-time payment of $1,200 has been by far the most popular and talked about check, and I really can't think of a scenario where we would receive more than $1,200. So even though it would be nice to receive a little bit more, unfortunately, it just isn't all that realistic. Okay, moving right along to the last question in today's video, which is from Peter. Peter says, hi Josh. Trump made a comment that if elected, he would pass an $1,800 stimulus check. I wish both parties would consider the people that put them in office. The help is not coming out of their pockets. We the people are paying for it. Giving the stimulus is going into the economy. I don't understand. Thank you for your question, Peter, and I definitely understand where you're coming from. Even though the money definitely isn't coming out of their pockets, they do try to spend the money as wisely as possible, although both sides have different ideas on how the money should be spent. I can most definitely understand where you're coming from though. I mean, families are struggling and they can't even pass a quick, simple bill for stimulus checks and to extend the unemployment benefits. That would help American families out so much right now in this time of need. As far as the $1,800 stimulus checks go, I haven't heard that number personally, but even if Trump did mention a specific number, in the end, it really wouldn't be up to him. Sure, he could encourage Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi to include that much in the bill, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be him writing the bills. He'll just be there at the end to either accept the bill that passes the House and the Senate or veto the bill. In the end, as I mentioned before, more than likely, the next check, if it does get passed, will be for just $1,200. Alright, so on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you did enjoy the content in this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is completely free to do so and it's a great support to me. Also, if you'd like to receive 2 free stocks from Webull with both stocks valued all the way up to $1,600, please feel free to claim those 2 free stocks by clicking the link in the description box below. And until next time, I'll see you guys and I hope you have a great day today.